Welcome, all you kids and squids, to our recap of the Splatoon 2 Fresh 4 Championship 2021. My name is Ninehole Grains, I'm a Splatoon commentator and a huge fan of the game, and I cannot be more excited to bring the action to you here today.
Hi everybody, my name is Milana and I'm an enthusiastic squid kid just like you. Today we're joined by two teams, Not FT Win and Starburst, two of the best teams in North America duking it out for a trophy featuring Judd and Lil Judd. Without further ado, let's take it to game number 1.
Game 1 was a story of decisive movement and trusting your game plan, and boy did these teams get it started early.
That's right, Nine. We can see here Kyo getting an early splatted by Bran and Ice. And both members of Starburst moving to that advantageous positioning and, really just holding down that zone where they need to be.
It's not easy to take back against this team, and take a look at how Not FT Win did it. Look at all those bombs flying from left to right, booyah bombs, suction bombs, splat bombs. Woo! Had to back all the way back and give up the zone there.
Yeah, and we can catch that slow-mo replay in case you missed a little bit of that action. As we can see here, some of those suction bombs running in and trying to catch that zone from Not FT Win. And what is important here to notice is that two members of FT Win trying to combine their specials to hold that zone, and because, there's power in numbers, Nine.
There absolutely is power in numbers. I see what you did there, and this is actually a strategy that they used multiple times throughout this game. We actually have it from the perspective of Bagel this time, who is lined all the way back, tossing the suction bombs from as far away as possible, understanding that they need to stay on the map if they want to take the zone. Out the corner of your eye, you'll also see that Kyo had jumped down with another bomb rush as well. It was just enough to take the zone back as they were on the verge of defeat. With just over 10 seconds left, they bought themselves some more time.
And like we said, positioning. Biscuit here is taking kind of a dangerous position and unfortunately gets picked off by Ice, but Ice here using that pick to make space and take a more advantage spacing so that they can protect the zone.
The two teams traded punches back and forth through the rest of it until this final decisive hold here from FT Win. Bagel once again gets it started out with that suction bomb rush, but take a look here, holding down this area by this fan to ensure that his teammates could move up. You're gonna see here just in a moment, Kyo backs up here next to Bagel and uses another bomb rush in order to force the members of Starburst all the way back. Once they got this portion of the map, Milana, they never let it go.
That's right, Nine, and we see that timer ticking down, and this was the decisive play that gave them the victory.
A fantastic game number 1, and let me tell you, when we saw that game number 1 looked like this, we knew we're in for one heck of a set. And speaking of that set, let's go ahead and throw it right into the middle with game number 4.
As we enter Game 4 of the Fresh 4 Championship, Not FT Win only has one more game to claim the victory. Starburst is going to have to make some big changes, so they opt to change their weapon composition to something a little longer ranged.
What Starburst gained in a bit of range, they gave up in mobility. About halfway through the game, Not FT Win took advantage of a slight overextension and used that speed to swarm the members of Starburst as they went on to score big. From there, it was a hop, skip, and a jump to get a huge lead that they would hold until the game's waning seconds.
And with 30 seconds left on the clock, Starburst is going to have to make some big moves to get some points on the board. Brandroid taking that left route over there and getting a pick off of Not FT Win is going to be huge. It's going to give them a little bit of area to move forward, and it's going to make Not FT Win retreat.
They took advantage of that almost immediately. You can see Bran and Jared at the top of the screen attacking Not FT Win's flank. In the meantime, Ice and Brandroid wait patiently for that attack to land, and once Bran rotates back, Ice moves in with a huge score that starts the bonanza. The rest of the members swarm as quickly as they can, and an emphatic victory going the direction of Starburst.
And with the end of Game 4, Starburst is finally on the board, and the momentum starts to shift in their favor. That will bring us to an exciting Game 7. Let's take a look here.
We had finally arrived at Game 7, the championship point. The two rivals had treated us to another incredible set in their storied history. But it was finally time to determine a winner and for heroes to be made.
Our first big play was made by Ice. Ice from Starburst surviving an unlikely 2v1 right here And this gives Starburst the ability to push up a little bit. And Ice, taking that aggressive positioning, is able to charge their special, the Stingray. By using the Stingray, they are able to kind of produce a little bit of covering fire and take out hopefully a member or two of Not FT Win, helping that Rainmaker make its first push.
Not to be outdone by his teammate, Bran went on an absolute tear this game, hitting an incredible double direct with this Inkjet and getting a second pick on Kyo from Not FT Win. This push looked like it might take the points the distance as the team moved closer and closer to getting that knockout.
What Starburst wasn't anticipating was Biscuit waiting for them as they were making that push. Biscuit able to hold that defensive positioning and take a couple of members of Starburst down allows for an opening for Not FT Win to make a push.
In their final desperate push, FT Win placed all their cards in the correct position. Kyo and Bagel moved up, taking out 3 members, with the last one being Brandroid. In an incredible, unlikely fight, Brandroid was able to take out all 3 members of Not FT Win, securing the victory for his team.
But that was a lot of action in one go, so let's take another look at the action in slow-mo. As we can see here, 2D is holding a defensive positioning, trying to defend against Bran, getting a lot of support from their teammates, and in this one last final opportunity to make the push, unfortunately Brandroid is able to stop all 3 members of Not FT Win in one go, giving the victory to Starburst.
At the end of this historic set, Starburst completed an incredible reverse sweep to earn their very first North American Championship.
And 9, I for one cannot wait to see Not FT Win and Starburst duke it out on the battlefield once again.
We've hoped you'd enjoyed this recap of the Splatoon 2 Fresh 4 Championship 2021. Until next time, stay fresh!
Whether it's to play your favorite game, to play for school pride, or for the thrill of competition. Play competitively with Play Versus. Visit playvs.com today for more information.
In this house, we bowl.
Nice try.
Here we go.
In their house, we duel.
KO.
Yes! In our house, we score. We love teaming up.
Play.
And we love a little competition.
Aw, it's okay, you got it next time, you got it next time.
Ready? Whether it's with family, friends, or rivals near and far.
This is the end. Block, block, block.
Yes!
So whichever sport you choose, victory could be just within reach. You ready to play? Nintendo Switch Sports. Available now only on Nintendo Switch.
Oh, baby!
Well, happy Saturday and welcome into the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022 event number 2. I'm your spray-by-spray host, Jordan Kent, and joining me, two of the finest Splatalists in all of Inkopolis. First, even though he's a 10 in my book, he goes by 9. 9, great to have you here. And what we have here, I think it feels like it took us about 1 in 4,096 tries to get him on the cast. We have Shiny joining us, and gentlemen, a lot to be excited about here today, but you two have really looked at the 4 teams that have made it here to the finals of Event 2, and there's a lot to talk about as far as some of the history that they bring to the table. And 9, let's start with you. What stands out about these 4 teams today?
Yeah, this is one of the first times that we have seen in the finals of a North American Open 4 teams in our top 4 who have all competed at this stage within the last few months. Between the March Open and last week's event, all of these teams have been on this stage and they've battled it out. You know this isn't going to be too big of a show for them.
And Shiny, obviously Starburst is one of those teams you keep an eye on, their rich history. What helps them really stand out as most likely the favorites here today?
Well, it's not just the history, it's how fastidiously they practice. They really care and enjoy playing the game and how deep it can get in terms of the different nuances you can find, the gear, and making sure that your weapons are not just meta, but fit your team composition. They have amazing skills, both at the backline and with how aggressive they can be.
Yeah, very well said. And before we get to the rules for the semifinals here coming up, there are some prizes our teams are playing for, and the grand prize will be the gaming chair, the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022 trophy. Along with that, 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points. You've got a gaming headset, Splatoon 2 jacket, a backpack, and a Nintendo Switch carrying case. So obviously a lot to play for here. But amongst this tight-knit Splatoon 2 community, it's just a chance to add another championship to the wall here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rules for the semifinals coming up. It will be best of 5, and one important thing to keep in mind is that after the first game, the losing team will choose the mode for the next game, and the winner will choose the stage. Now, you can repeat stages how often you want. Yes, you could do Walleye Warehouse 5 times in a row if you wanted to. However, you cannot repeat the game mode until you have gone through all 4. And you see the semifinals matchups here, Starburst versus Ryu, and then Super P versus Cherry Limeade. And you know, it's really interesting here, Shiny. You look at the meta of Splatoon 2, and we had some conversations last week during the Event 1 finals. It's so fast-paced. What makes it so fast-paced, and what do you have to be mindful of when the action is moving that quickly?
Well, the most natural thing I think it comes down to is, of course, what weapons end up being meta. The first one that comes to mind is the Kensa 52 Gal. On the maps, especially that we're seeing in the semifinals, you look at ones like Walleye Warehouse, you look at Port Mackerel, they have these sort of thin, narrow corridors, and that works out great for splash walls. And also, they have decent range. Shooters also come naturally to a lot of players, so it's not too much of a far cry. And then if you play a longer range weapon, you still have lots of options. These maps, like Walleye Warehouse is another example that has a lot of open sightlines too. So if you play something like a Jet Squelcher, which, spoiler, we're probably going to see a lot of today, that can also have a lot of effect no matter which variant you're playing.
And last week, 9, what we looked at in Event 1 in those finals with 2 of our teams returning in Ryu and Cherry Limeade, getting off to a good start was really important because it felt like those teams that got knocked back on their back heel really struggled to come back and regain control of these games.
Yeah, you're never going to have an easier push than your first push if you get a big wipe off of the start. I think most people who are watching today know specials very, very powerful, and when you get splatted and sent back to spawn, you lose about half of your special meter, maybe a little bit less depending on your gear. But at the start of the game, you don't have a meter that's very close to being full. So if 2 or 3 of your members go down, it's that much more difficult for you to access those defensive resources, and oftentimes that very first push is enough if you can play defense the rest of the way.
And Shiny, we're getting set for our first game here. The mode will be Clam Blitz, and when you look at Clam Blitz, what really stands out to you as far as what you're seeing at these high levels of competition? What kind of strategies are these teams trying to implement? Because obviously you can go a couple of different directions in Clam Blitz, but what seems to kind of be the consistent method to get victories here when it gets to Clam Blitz?
Well, I would argue that almost more than any other mode, the individual play is that much more important. With modes like Rainmaker and Tower Control, you have a dedicated objective player. There's something similar to that where you have the Power Clam carrier, but that can change really easily just by throwing it. So really, the individual effort of not only finding where the clams are, but picking and choosing your battles very carefully. One splat in a mode like this can lead to an overwhelming tidal wave that allows the team that got the initial splat to get the first break of the barricade. And when that barricade breaks, you can get almost a near 100-0 push if you have enough clams at your disposal.
And Nine, you talk about this all the time. That initial push, the first time you get access to the basket, probably the most important time that you have in the entire game to score some points here.
Absolutely. After that, it comes down to clam control. There's clams all around in pods of 4, but at the very beginning, they're strewn about in a little bit more haphazard of a fashion here. So oftentimes you'll see teams build up a power clam very quickly at the start by picking those up as they go. And of course, when you score after the basket closes, half of whatever you scored goes back to you as a penalty. So that's why it's all the more important to make that very first push your biggest.
As we get set for our first game to get rolling here for the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022 Event 2 Finals. Shiny, going back to the weapons that we're seeing, and there, of course, is that very popular drum and guitar riff as we get set for Clam Blitz on New Albacore Hotel. Let's check in with the action here. It's going to be our first two teams taking center stage here. Obviously, New Albacore Hotel, just one of those maps, Shiny, where you have to be mindful about how you approach because there's a couple of areas with that mesh that'll slow you down as you try to get in and out of mid.
You know, I think this is where the anchor weapons, the long-range weapons really shine. Because you have these uninkable surfaces, these grates, it really allows you to play safely, and you really need to have that person give your team the opening, the into the middle part of the map, like Bagel's trying to get here. And I see a couple of weapons that we haven't really seen a lot of in the meta, like the 96 gal we were just spectating, and on the opposite side of things, that Bamboo Mark 1 with the curling bomb and the very popular 10 missiles.
Look now at Jay, as both teams have all 4 members on the map. Nobody at this point has been able to get to the basket. You see Jay with 9 clams, just waiting for one more here for that power clam. And really here at this point, 9, what are you trying to establish in this early game where both teams are kind of at neutral?
Well, you're trying to establish what Ryu did not just establish, which is not going 2 or 3 down at one time here. You saw that really for the first minute of the game, it was a pretty neutral stalemate in the center. They were both playing very defensive, but as Starburst often does, they found a pick off on the side of the map. They used their ink armor to push through, and you can see already down to 50. This is a great opening push, as it does look like their initial attack has been foiled.
As you pointed out, Ryu able to knock out a couple of members of Starburst. That'll reset the baskets, but 50 points scored on that opening push. But already, here we go, Shiny, 4-2 advantage for Starburst.
And you mentioned some of the differences that are in this mode compared to others. There was a 2-down situation, but Ryu only had 5 clams at their disposal, and they're still sitting on 5 clams. The ability of Starburst to get back into the action that quickly really speaks to how formulated they are as a team and how confident they feel. I also want to point out, too, both teams are bringing in a weapon called the Foil Squeezer, which has the Bubble Blower as its special, which allows you to get close to that power clam, and I can see Ryu is popping it now.
Oh, and Ice just put him on ice. How about that shot there, 9? As you talk about being able to apply some pressure from a backline position can pay huge dividends for your team.
I mean, talk about the respect they gave Ice. 2 people who were armored up had an opportunity to push Ice back. Ice threw a burst bomb to break both of their ink armors. They immediately walked the other way, and Ice was able to get a pick. But how about this now? Ricky coming the other way to at least thrust aside the pain that comes with that Stingray as we have a big scramble in the middle.
Yeah, Ice being melted by Ricky. You see Jay with the power clam gets a little bit of help from the splash wall, trying to avoid a couple of burst bombs coming through there. Armor unable to come up just in time, unfortunately there, Shiny, as Starburst stuffing that potential push.
Man, you look at the mobility of a weapon like the Splattershot Jr., and when they died, they were 99% of the way there when they were splatted to that ink armor, so taking out such a critical special is going to be such a big play. It has great mobility, so it's great for power clam carrying, as we see a couple of quick kills here from Starburst that may allow for the next push.
And you saw Bagel splat one, get one free as they go ahead and bust open the basket once again, adding to their lead. Under 2 minutes left. You see them at 37-100. Just a dominant performance so far here. And all Ryu's going to have to do here, 9, is try and stuff this, but they will really have to turn things around if they want to get back into this game.
I mean, this has absolutely been a brutal sequence of events there. You saw both Ice and Bagel get really, really long-range splats at the very edge of their weapons. Then as they were scoring, Brand came around on the backside and got 2 with the flank there. All the while, Biscuit sitting in mid to make sure that no real counter push could be had. And all of this going on as they were scoring, melting even more time off the clock. Starburst is firing on all cylinders today.
Jay with the power clam, obviously time not in favor for Ryu. Jay just trying to approach, but that mesh bridge, as we mentioned just there, Shiny, it really makes you think about how you can approach with the power clam. It's very difficult to just get in there quickly.
And we've seen a couple of times the power of the Tenna missiles, not only giving some damage if you're able to hit a player, but also locating where the members of the other team are. With such a split-off map like this, where you could be hiding in any little nook and cranny, that's such a big asset to gain as we see Ryu trying to make use of it here. Ryu doesn't have very many clams at their disposal, though not even one power clam to their name so far as they lose another player.
45 seconds left, 4-2 advantage for Ryu, possibly a chance for them to push, but 9, you are asking a lot out of Ryu thanks to the early lead that Starburst has built in. Biscuit just doing a fine job here, 9, of staying alive, applying that pressure, and just making sure that Starburst is not outnumbered here in the final 30 seconds.
I mean, it's tail of the tape right back there. That last 30 seconds should tell you everything you need to know about this game. They finally had 2 members of Starburst down, which is a monumental ask, and Biscuit single-handedly was able to hold the center of the map, make sure there was no counter push, and Zach, they have enough clams to end it right here.
Yeah, unabashedly pushing forward, not content with taking the lead. They wanted to be sure that they could take the entire knockout, not even really wanting to wait for that clock to expire. And that's exactly the kind of tenacity and push that you want to make if you're a team like Starburst to really make a statement here in these semifinals.
And really indicative of what they can do. And you see just solid numbers across the board, 11, 9, 8, 8. For Starburst. And really, 9, this is what you see from a team the caliber of Starburst. They can win a lot of one-on-one here situations, but also just their aim and the ability to apply pressure from all 4 team members makes it very difficult for other teams.
Yeah, they're so good at it, and to be able to have the versatility to bring out a composition like that, we have a long list of weapons that Bagel played here, and none of them were the 96 gal, so that should tell you that when they go to a map like New Albacore Hotel, where you do need a little bit of range here, they can switch over to a comp and fits that. And Zach said earlier, these players have as many hours in the game as anybody that you will find. That's where that versatility comes from, and that's why that was such a dominant game from start to finish.
So obviously first game going to Starburst, and we will update the bracket here in just a moment to show you. But now it's an opportunity to go to a different game mode. And if you are Ryu, what do you take away from that very first game there, Shiny? Because you get a chance to learn a little bit about your opponent and how they play. But if you're Ryu, where does the adjustment come for them?
You know, I think the first obvious thing for them is that this team is the real deal, that they are everything that has been said about them and how difficult it is to go up against them. And even when you get an inch, it's difficult to retain what ground you've gained. So I think in terms of picking up another game mode, obviously Splat Zones is going to be a nice one to go into if you want to really make use of something like the Ink Armor. Maybe you could stick on the Splattershot Junior, go with the Inzap 85 that has really strong painting. Or if you feel that you're much more of an objective-based team that likes to play together, Rainmaker or Tower Control might be for you, for the ability to stick together and to work together more as a team, rather than in Clan Blitz where you're all kind of scrambling around trying to play the objective individually.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see which game mode they go with, and then of course the counter pick of the stage will go to Starburst, and so it will be Tower Control and Muscle Forge Fitness, where 9, I think you just got done getting a quick climbing set in there earlier today, and you look at this map and mode here, 9, and what are you trying to keep in mind when you get a chance to ride that tower amongst all the barbells and rock walls here?
Yeah, this is a fascinating pick because there's a lot of history on this map and mode, particularly with some of the members of Starburst here. We see this map go to a knockout as much as we see it on any other map, and it's because after you get past that second checkpoint, you have natural protection from the stage. You go through the gulch in that lower area. That is almost a free push all the way to that third checkpoint, and it's really only a hop, skip, and a jump from that third checkpoint. So my advice, don't let it get that far. Find a way, even if you have to play slow at the start, don't allow yourself to go more than 2 down. Of course, that's much easier said than done against a team of this caliber.
Yeah, I was going to thank you. Well said, Coach. I appreciate that. Shiny, you look at mid in this particular map, and it's hard to quickly go in there and dominate mid. And there's so many different ways that you can approach it. How will these teams look to try and control that early on to give themselves that early advantage?
Well, what used to be so popular is weapons like the Nautilus 79, where you have a Splatwing that can stay back and still have be effective from that range behind where those walkways are that you can't ink. But there's also, for your shorter range players, your Slayers, there's almost a moat sort of going around the middle of the map. And so that's where they're primarily going to be living. Now, do they take the opportunity to flank around? Do they try and get behind the enemy team that might be too hyper-focused on mid? Or do they just run straight through either one of the side alleyways or straight into mid and try to establish ground that way? We saw the Bamboozler coming out from Ryu. If they elect to take it this time, that might be their tower carrier. And that could be a great way to get some picks without having to necessarily be standing in mid.
Yeah, and it feels like staying alive is so important on this map, as you mentioned. Don't try to go too down, because getting knocked back to spawn, especially 9, when they get past that second checkpoint, you were just giving them some easy points to accumulate. So we'll see if they can follow the sage advice of 1-9 and be able to make sure they don't go down 2-0 at any point. So here it is, Starburst trying to build a 2-0 advantage. Both teams scrambling towards mid, and it seems like Biscuit going to meet a couple of members of Ryu early on here, 9.
Absolutely, and I'm just looking at the top of the screen right now. When is Ice's Stingray going to come out? So famous for starting off maps getting picks here. It looks like Starburst was willing to play that start a little bit slower here, and that's going to allow Ricky to get a great positioning, but not able to find enough shots. The armor was there, yes, but you have to imagine that there was some meat left on the bone. Ice follows up, and look at that, Jordan, already 4-0 down in favor of Starburst. To
your point, that Stingray, Ricky unable to do much, getting outnumbered, and that was a critical splat that leads the way, and they are already making their way to the first checkpoint here, Shiny, and it seems like they are well positioned to fortify their hold here.
You know, the changes that Ryu made, they went to one of my favorite personal weapons, the Trisash Nouveau, which has the Ink Storm, which gives you some passive ink coverage, but if you're not able to get into mid and really build up that special, it's not doing too much for you, as we see checkpoint 2 get passed already. 2 members down on the side of Ryu, as only the K-52 is going to fall here. They have the missiles that will at least delay the tower, but getting to that checkpoint and passing it really helps to make sure that you don't have to regain that ground again when you make your next push.
First time the tower has hit the stop sign for Starburst, and it'll get sent back to neutral. 4-1 advantage for Ryu. So 9, that was critical because they were able to prevent Starburst from getting to that third checkpoint. Now it's a matter of taking over the majority of the turf on the map at this point.
Yeah, and because they got them all so quick, there was no danger of a stagger. Staggering a spawn can be nice in the sense that it takes your opponent longer to defend, but it also means that sometimes one of them can sneak back to mid and at least make your move back a little bit more difficult. This time, great job. They've used their specials early here. Bagel's the only one around the tower for the time being. I would expect this first checkpoint to fall without too much resistance.
Inkstorm obviously helping them out here as they try to make their way through the first checkpoint, but the Stingray putting the brakes on this initial push. 4-2 for Starburst. How about the defensive effort we just saw there, Shiny?
For both teams, you'll notice that neither of them are just popping one special at a time. They're going 2 on, 2 off, and then the next 2 have their special. 2 on, 2 off, and then it switches over to Starburst, and Starburst uses the Stingray there and the missiles to get them off the tower. So both of these teams really have a great idea that one special is not going to be enough in this tight of a situation.
Ice busting out the Stingray once more, gets the splat on Jay, and that'll give a slight numbers advantage at the moment for Starburst, but it now evens out. But at this point, 9, you've got such a sizable lead, you can really pick and choose the way that you want to play, as Ice just continues to just have this onslaught right now against Ryu, really dominating the game here, 9.
I mean, nothing that Ice is capable of surprises you because you've seen it so many times, but just the ease at which he is able to do it is always what's most impressive there. He gets the pick with the Stingray, rotates around, gets around 2 people who were attacking here, and even though they were at a numbers disadvantage, because they were able to hold this side of the map, you saw them get a little mini push there to at least slow the momentum that Ryu had started to build up.
Ricky trying to chase a few members of Starburst, trying to get them scattered as Ryu has control of the tower, trying to get past their first checkpoint. Just under 1:45, so still plenty of time, but Shiny, at this point, Ryu, you're not going to get too many opportunities, and just like that, the Stingray coming out, putting a halt to that effort.
Again, the specials being so influential. You saw there Riki trying to use one of the most common flanking methods on this map and trying to get up onto that ramp area for a flank right by spawn. And it did well enough for distracting them to where Ryu was able to get on the tower, outlast those couple of specials, and now they have a couple of their own built up. They're about to have armor as well, which they can pop. The missiles are helping them force the members of Starburst back, and because of that, they've just cleared their second checkpoint.
Some impressive accuracy from some of those suction bombs, but not enough to stall Ryu. Here's a chance. They can threaten the lead here. Ryu just 1 point away from tying, but how about the stop right there? 9 by Starburst, almost yielding the lead.
You love it when you see the great teams get desperate, because sometimes all the planning and all the strategy in the world doesn't work, and you say, just attack. We'll figure it out once we get there. And everything that Ryu did right there was exactly by the book. You saw on the left side of the map, they had their Bamboozler, enough range to pick away at the members of Starburst as they were coming out. Because of that, Ice did not have enough room to build up that Stingray, and that's a big reason why you saw that big push come oh so close.
A potentially game-saving stop. Ryu knocking on the door, couldn't turn the handle, and now they are in deep trouble. 4-2 lead for Starburst, 17 seconds left. They want to put this thing away here, and this is what you see from the great teams here, Shiny. When their backs are up against the wall, they can make those plays that are the difference between winning and losing as this clock starts to wind down.
First priority, of course, get Starburst off the tower. They're basically camping spawn-ins at this point, and that's the only thing they could do. They wanted to get back on the tower, but they didn't have anybody near enough, and they were already 2 down. The last member was trying to jump in, but to no avail, and Starburst a lot closer of a call, but they hold their own in game 2.
So Starburst, after a very impressive initial push here, they were able to finally get this stop here against Ryu. And this is what we see sometimes in these games here, 9. It comes down to one moment like that. 5 seconds of gameplay. How are you going to handle all these individual matchups, all these decisions that you have to make? And it's Starburst that's able to just finally go in there and get the splats when you need to get them, and that saved the game for them.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You could take that last moment there where they stopped it, put that up, and make a 2-hour stream just trying to analyze what could have been done differently there or how they were able to defend. But that's what makes these teams so good. We talk about composure all the time, but there's so many things, so many pieces of information that these players are able to take in, to be cognizant of, and to be able to execute properly on, that even after the fact, they might not be able to tell you exactly what they did, but they know they got the W, and that's what matters.
And Shiny, it really felt like Ice was the key member for Starburst that game. Really the only time that Ryu was able to get a push was when Ice was down. That's when they made it through their first 2 checkpoints. And you really look at the importance of someone that can play such a pivotal role as a backliner, especially in tower control like that.
There's no wonder why they call it the anchor role. It really is the anchor of your team. It is the ability for you to have an effect while using your optimal range. And I mentioned at the beginning of this map, going into it, you know, a lot of Jet Squelchers might be content to just sit back behind that graded area, just fire into the mid. Not Ice. Ice was down in there with the closest of the ranges there and winning what were either 1v1s or 1v2s in a lot of cases.
So we have Splat Zones on Sturgeon Shipyard coming up here, 9, and this is a map that a lot of people really enjoy getting a chance to go toe-to-toe on, or should I say tentacle-to-tentacle on. But looking at Splat Zones here, what really stands out to you as far as what teams are going to need to do to get that dub?
Yeah, this is a really interesting map, and one of the reasons why people like it is there's so many avenues not only to come back into mid, but once you've created a lockout scenario, you can push really far forward and not let the opponent build up their specials. One of the things that we see oftentimes in splat zones is teams will get the zone, they'll hang out maybe a little bit in front of it, but they won't be confident enough to push forward. The other team builds up their specials, they use 4 specials, the zone flips, we rinse and repeat. You're not going to see that with this team. They're going to understand exactly how far they can push up to put pressure on the opponent and not be passive.
And in a situation like that, one of these teams here, Shiny, I would bet a lot on it here, is going to find themselves not having the zone at one point. How do you then flip it on this map? What do you need to do to get back into this game?
Well, you know, this map has a lot more, you know, height differential, I would say, than a lot of other maps in the game. And so it helps you to be able, if you are a longer range weapon, maybe you use that and rely on that player to help you get back in. There are also, you know, weapons that they could pick, things with Squid Beacon that they could use. If they're having a problem getting in, use your sub. That way, it still has an effect even when you're not in the midst of a fight.
Starburst just 1 game away from moving on to finals. They will make it a clean sweep if they can get this one. Ryu, they came oh so close in game 2. Let's see if they can turn the tide this time around. And already it's Ricky and Nick racing to the middle here. Jay trying to provide a little bit of support. You see that burst bomb and that splat bomb being thrown out. Jay at this point trying to get away from those Tenta missiles, and already an early zone. Nice start for Ryu here, 9.
Yeah, they held it, but as we so often see with Starburst, they're willing to give up the early zone to maintain true control. And there is a difference, folks, as you can see right now, no members of Ryu really near the zone. But interestingly enough, Starburst has gone with that Neo Splash-O-Matic, which has the ever-powerful Suction Bomb Rush here. If it does come down to a big zone battle at the end, you have to think they're going to be able to outscale them in terms of raw ink.
Ryu reclaims the zone, currently down by about 13, and it seems like now Kiwi and crew here, Shiny, well positioned to start to advance the troops and really put Starburst on their heels.
Yeah, Kiwi has really stuck with this Bamboozer. The curling bomb is able to get you through, again, what are pretty narrow hallways, even if you don't have ink through the area. Now he's doing a great job of holding the zone too. You can see how the zone is a little bit raised through the bridge structure, and that gives you not only the range, but gives you great visibility when you're about to pop your antenna missiles like we just saw Kiwi do there.
And what we saw, Nine, it was really interesting for Kiwi. The zone was starting to fill up with some yellow, but Kiwi continued to just stick to what they were supposed to do. Apply pressure and let your teammates fill the zone. You love it when teams understand their roles like that.
They do, and the entire talking point I was about to make about Ice having 2 rays and 0 splats and assists is no longer true. It's so rare that Ice fires 2 Stingrays and isn't able to get anything meaningful off of it, and hey, lo and behold, Ice finds 2 people with the ray, and now it's in complete control. So great adaptation by Ryu to be able to survive that onslaught, but now they're going to have to prove that they can come back in as well.
And that's the key point. Ryu does have a sizable lead, but it was Starburst led by Ice that all of a sudden flipped the momentum in this game, and it's Starburst with a 4-2 advantage. However, they lose control. That'll buy a few precious seconds for Ryu, but now Ryu trying to get back here into the middle of mid, and right now we see them trying to approach Shiny with some of that verticality you mentioned.
I'll use my few precious seconds to talk about what Starburst can do to maintain this. I was going to mention the Neo Splash-O-Matic and how impactful that Suction Bomb launcher can be, but they've just lost that. The closest thing they have to a special is the Ink Armor. They've gained the lead, but it's going to be Ryu trying to push in forward. At this point, all they can do is desperately try and paint the zone, but it's not enough. It's too little too late, and we can see even the Ink Armor wasn't helpful in getting them back the zone, and Starburst able to hold out that much longer and get that third and final KO.
And 9, I'm going to go back to Ice and that Stingray, picking up the 2 splats when Ryu was really chunking into that lead, and that to me was the turning point in this game, and a key reason why Starburst swept Ryu was the play of Ice as that anchor, and at a pivotal moment in this game does what they need to do, and then Starburst just takes off after that.
Yeah, it's a broken record. Every time you see a championship, it seems like Ice is always there, sometimes first, sometimes second, but omnipresent. And whenever you see 2 people go down to 1 special like that, it really changes the momentum of the game entirely, because now it's at least 3v2 in the middle, sometimes 4v2 depending on where it is. They got the full lockout, and you saw they were able to rotate their shooters around and make it so difficult for you to guess where the defense was coming from, and at that point all it takes is 1 slip up and you find your entire lead gone as you get knocked out.
Well, let's go ahead and check out the updated bracket here as Starburst grabs the broom and sweeps their way to finals 3-0 over Ryu. And really the highlight of that match was how close Ryu was in tower control at taking a game, but it'll be Starburst awaiting the winner of Super P and Cherry Limeade. And before we get to that, we're going to take a quick little break. But before we take that pause in action, we would like to let you know that PlayVS is Nintendo's official Scholastic partner for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Splatoon 2, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where thousands of high school players will compete weekly for a championship title, and players can now earn a varsity letter by gaming with their friends. You can sign up now to learn more about the fall season at www.playversus.com. Spread the word at your school and prepare to play in the fall season for 2023. Again, that's www.playversus.com. All right, we'll get to the other half of the bracket here in the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022, event number 2, and find out who will face off against Starburst in the finals. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In this house, we bool.
Nice try.
Here we go.
In their house, we duel.
KO. Yes!
In our house, we score. We love teaming up. and we love a little competition.
Oh, it's okay. You got it next time. You got it next time. Ready?
Whether it's with family, friends, or rivals near and far.
This is the end.
Block, block, block.
Yes.
So whichever sport you choose, victory could be just within reach. You ready to play? Nintendo Switch Sports. Available now only on Nintendo Switch.
Brave warriors of Adrestia, the time has come to demonstrate the Empire's valor.
We strike at the Imperial Army today.
The party's already starting, huh? We have to figure out exactly where we stand in this war. Who knew the Ashen Demon had that kind of strength? I can't believe one fighter could turn the tide of an entire battle like that.
We'll claim victory over that monster together.
I have to keep fighting.
Dying is without productivity. Have you ever read any chivalric romance? I think they're a fascinating group of people myself, but what do you make of them?
Let's link up. Are you ready? Do try to keep up. Back at you. The best way to honor my fallen comrades is by training hard and growing even stronger. Where do these powers come from?
Power itself is neutral. The good or evil comes from the one who wields it.
One day that sword might overtake me, and I'll turn into a monster. Not so fast, you two.
Defeating the Ashen Demon. Everything starts from there. My dear partner in destiny. Like it's something we're meant to do.
I'll let my sword do the talking when I cut the Ashen Demon down.
Whether it's to play your favorite game, to play for school pride, or for the thrill of competition. Play competitively with Play Versus. Visit playvs.com today for more information.
And welcome back to the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022 event number 2 finals. Jordan Kenalong here with Nine and Shiny, and we just got done watching Starburst make quick work of Ryu 3-0, sweep themselves all the way to finals here. And now we're getting set to check out the second half of the bracket. So let's go ahead, throw up the 4 teams here and let you know who we are going to see in action here in just a moment. Super P versus Cherry Limeade. Cherry Limeade, of course, joining us last week in the Event 1 finals. And as we take a look at the rules for semifinals once again to refresh things, it's going to be best of 5, and the team with the lower seed will choose the mode for the first game. After that, the losing team will choose the mode. You can repeat maps and repeat stages, which is important. As far as the game modes, though, you have to make sure you go through all 4 game modes before you go through one once again. So, getting set here, Shiny, we're going to have Splat Zone, Sturgeon Shipyards. We just got done seeing Starburst and Ryu do that, and it really feels like once you claim the zone, if you can advance your team beyond the zone and really try to stuff some of the special building abilities of your opponent, that's the key to victory here.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see a little taster of it already, but Splat Zones on this map is, you know, pretty tight because you're on one zone right in the middle of the map with lots of vantage points to it. You have the moving bridge, you have the boxes on the side, you even have walls to climb up to give you that vantage point. So even mid-range weapons can almost act like an anchor on this map. So you really have to be conscientious of where you're swimming, especially if you're playing something like an NZAP, Splattershot Jr., or something with a tighter bit of range, like even the Kensa Splattershot, which we may see in this next set.
And 9, we talked a little defense prior to the last Splat Zones at Sturgeon Shipyard, but take me through the mind of the team. Once you secure the zone and you're advancing forward to apply that pressure, what are you looking to do to get some of those splats to make sure you don't let your opponent build up those specials that can help overtake the lead?
Yeah, I'd say the big thing is disguise your defense. We really saw a great execution of it, if you will, in that last match where you saw Bagel and Bran rotating as they were attacking, sitting below the opponent's drop, and then all the while, the real threat was Biscuit, who was waiting on the right side, totally unseen. So when you finally think that you've gotten clear of the attack, you actually haven't. Their defense is successful, and the points come flying off the board.
Bran, Bagel, and Biscuit starting to get hungry here, Shiny. And as we take a look at what we're going to see here from Super P and Cherry and Limeade, it really feels like the initial push, while yes, it's important, it's really about the team here, Shiny, correct me if I'm wrong, that can establish control of not just the zone, but the map at the same time.
And in terms of weapons, I'm really happy. There are some weapons that I was looking forward to seeing. Leo Fotia on that Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, sort of a longer range alternative to an Ink Armor farming weapon, something that can be great at doing chip or poke damage. And on the opposite side of things, the base Splat Brella, as well as the Hero Blaster. So we're going to be seeing a good amount of chip damage plus a Firefin Splatter Scope, which is one of the rare Splatter Scopes that can have a bomb launcher to really give you an advantage here in Splat Zone play.
All of Sheldon's inventory on display here in this game, and 9 already. Super P claiming the first zone. They've got 4-3 on the map, and that Ink Armor is going to help them continue to try to reclaim the zone once again, which they do. And now we're looking at Voice, and what are you going to see from Voice as they try to push forward?
Well, exactly what you just saw. Move up right there, paint around, call out where the opponent is coming from. Now, the difference here is that Shiny is going to be able to challenge this ever so slightly with the range of this Splatter Scope. You can see firing immediately at the spinner to try to build some room. However, they don't have the best specials for pushing in. They're going to try to create some space with this Suction Bomb Rush, but you can see not a lot of follow-up as the time ticks away.
And that's huge, 9, because you mentioned that Suction Bomb Rush is a really powerful tool to reclaim the zone, but Shiny, I'm going to flip it to you here. You don't get a chance to approach close enough with that Suction Bomb Rush, and now you've wasted a critical special, and it's just 10 seconds away from taking the L.
Boy, you want to talk about how to shut down a Charger 101. You put the Toxic Mist on them, you fire the Tenta missiles, and away they go. It's a quick 100-0 drop there, and we saw near the end of that match the power of something like the Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, where it can nearly match the range of one of those Chargers and hit you for even just 25-30 damage a pop, and really prevent you from doing anything too special, as we see Leo Fotia top the leaderboard there.
Yeah, really impressive performance by Super P, and 9. You saw, even though we were looking at Shiny on the back end trying to get back into the zone, how you can stuff those approaches and really being mindful of not just understanding your own weapon, right, but understanding the opponent's weapon and how they operate. That to me seemed like a textbook definition of knowing your opponent.
Yeah, and Cherry Limeade is such a difficult team to plan for because they have so many different weapons that they always go to. You said it, all of Sheldon's arsenal is available for these teams to pick, but they really understood that the Brella, that's a weapon that you want 2 or 3 of your opponents firing on so you can rotate the other members of your team over and get some picks there. But because of the range that Super P had on their weapons, they never even needed to do that. They didn't need to go up and attack anybody to get in a position where that was even a possibility. And again, like you said, there's Zach. As soon as they got them back, they had too much range and really stuffed that push before it could get started.
Yeah, you don't really see the miss too often here, Shiny, but the fact that it was utilized to, as you pointed out, stop the anchor, someone that's got the type of range to possibly apply some pressure on the zone, to me that was really masterful and one of the key strategic moves for Super P. And you look at the fact that they're able to do that while maintaining control of the zone. They didn't lose it once, and to me, that's one of the most impressive things you can do in Splat zones.
Well, if you're on the flip side of things for Cherry Limeade, you really have to start to think about what can we do to counter this pretty aggressive but also pretty decently ranged composition. And we talked about how many weapons Cherry Limeade has at their disposal. We could see something like the Gloogadoolies or a variant of the Gloogadoolies like the Deco come out to have a little bit better mobility if you think Toxic Mist is going to be a problem. That sort of propels you in the direction that you choose and allows you to get out of that debilitating mist faster. On the opposite side of things, if Shiny Boy doesn't feel like the Charger was optimal enough, maybe you go for a different style of anchor weapon. The Explosher is another thing that they've been known to play, which can also provide that chip damage at an even longer range.
So Nine, we're getting set for tower control here, and if you are Cherry Limeade, you get a chance to maybe re-rack things. That wasn't exactly how you wanted the first game to go here, but how do you bounce back? Tower control, what are some strategies if you're Cherry Limeade you can apply to maybe turn the tide this time around?
Yeah, if you're going with tower control, you're banking on the fact that you can swarm your opponent and really make their life difficult. Maybe you see that they went with a slightly more ranged comp and you think, okay, now we're going to go with maybe our Gloogadoolies here. We're going to try to attack the opponent and go about it in that way. That has to be why you're going, but you see here they were counterpicked immediately back to Sturgeon Shipyard, and this is maybe the best map they could have picked in terms of trying to stick with their range comp, as we see no real changes from Super P.
Now, I heard you both say Gloogadoolies. Look at what we get a chance to see here in just a second. You love to see it. This is why you two are sitting in those chairs right there. Now it's a chance for Cherry Limeade and a little bit of a different comp here. Take us through this here, Shiny. What are they rolling with?
So they've gone sort of the best of both worlds, I think. You see a not very oft-used weapon there in the Kensa Luna Blaster. That's going to give you that Ink Storm, which again provides that passive amount of map control, which is great for a one-zone map like this, or a one-tower map like this, I should say. And you also have that extreme range of the custom E-Liter 4K, which is going to provide you an opportunity to stay far away from those short-range Slayers.
So here it is, Super P grabbing the tower initially, trying to get to the first checkpoint, but you see a lot of pressure, a lot of heat coming down from Cherry Limeade. They've got a special ready to go, and they did a nice job there, Nine, of stuffing that initial approach.
Yeah, they got set up very well, and they have a lot of lethal bombs on their side here, so they're going to be able to do a great job of making it that much more difficult. This first checkpoint's so hotly contested, and Shiny Boy is in a great spot right here to make sure that no one gets close enough to take that out, and now we see Krim already pushed up, Shiny in a great position too. If the Sync Armor finds its target, and it does, Krim might be able to get a big pick to extend this further, but this is the best Cherry Limeade has looked.
Cherry Limeade bubbling their way to the final checkpoint. You see the splat going down there, and Shiny just holding down that anchor position, and really impressive as far as what Shiny's able to do here to dictate really the pacing and movement of Super P. You see the pressure here, Shiny. Yes, there you go. There's your boy picking up another one.
Shiny Boy playing super optimally here. You saw them get a pick and then immediately jump back to a safe position. That's one of the benefits that the custom variant of this weapon provides, is the Squid Beacon. It's not just for you, though. It's also for your teammates. So if you have weapons that are prone to go down a lot, like the Kensa Luna or even your Gloogas, they can get back into the fight much easier and less visibly than somebody who has to super jump back to their teammate or come back from spawn.
Cherry Limeade trying to even things out at one game apiece here in the semifinals. Lily getting back on the tower. Under 3 minutes left, as we mentioned, and 4-4 on the map, but two splats coming in here from Lily. Nine.
Absolutely needed to have those there. That had to have been somebody jumping back in as well. That's the only reason that you would see two people that close to be taken out from one bomb. But that's huge, because now they're going to be able to push forward all that much. These bubbles are going to provide great protection on the tower if that third one comes out. And it looks like the members of Super P had just enough time to pivot over to the left side. All the same, more points come off the board. And again, it's going to take them a little bit to get back into mid to build those specials. But what a perfect bomb throw.
And you see Super P having to fight through a few specials of their own. The bubbles, the Ink Storm, that's going to slow down their approach. And now Cherry Limeade here, Shiny. They've been on the offensive the majority of this game. Looks like they're going to have to be ready to put their fingers in the dirt here and get set to play a little bit of defense.
They're already doing this. They've got a flanker out there. It was going to be Pika, but Pika goes down. His boys playing very well, using those jump shots shots to their advantage and even getting one final kill there before going down. Shiny using some of those walls there to do some right peeking and to get an advantage there. But what you can see on the tower is that as long as somebody is on or around it, they're able to continue that push just by jumping back to it. Plus, they have those great splash walls of the K52 that gives them some extra protection.
And here is Super P trying to threaten the lead, and Super P has taken the lead with just 90 seconds left, pushing through that final checkpoint. They want it all, though. They want to get the knockout. 4-1 on the field, and here it is, a haymaker coming in the final minute 30 from Super P, and that'll give them the win and a 2-0 advantage. 9, what did you see from Super P down the stretch, as it feels like they really just were able to put together a masterful push?
They were, and at the very end, when it looks like that, when the tower didn't really have anything going at it, it just shows you again why things like the Stingray and the Tenta missiles that were not in the arsenal of Cherry Limeade, how strong that those are, where you can move back and you can be able to find a way to take out somebody or at least stall the tower. Instead, the only options they had were to try to get close to the tower and deal with it from there, and the members of Super P just too strong, pushed too far forward. That's what a great push looks like.
Let's take a look at the rule set once more, because there are other maps other than Sturgeon Shipyard that these teams can choose from here. And you see Walleye Warehouse, Port Mackerel, Muscle Forge Fitness, New Albacore Hotel as possible options. It'll be the next game mode that will be chosen here by Cherry Limeade. So you wonder what they're going to do here in this situation, because they were so close making that impressive initial push here on tower control on Sturgeon Shipyard. But we'll see what happens this time around. Shiny, looking back at the good things that Cherry Limeade did, what stood out to you about what went well?
Well, if you looked at the leaderboard at the end, you would notice that Super P, they're relying on their longer range weapons a lot. Their anchor and their utility player in the Jet Squelcher and Rapid Blaster Protecto, they're doing a lot of the work. So what they're doing well is winning those closer range 1v1s. So their Slayer type players are getting in there and doing their job in terms of winning those close-knit battles. It's getting all the way to the backline and finding success like Shiny Boy was able to for a lot of that match, getting those long-range picks when you have a weapon that doesn't do great when your opponent is right in your face. When you can stay calm under all that pressure, it's bound to lead to results.
And 9, that's tough when it feels like you've really dominated a game for the majority of the time, and then all of a sudden just one swift push by the opponent ends up being a knockout. So for Cherry Limeade, if they want to stay alive, any big adjustments you see needing to come from them, obviously it depends on the game mode here, of course.
Sure, and a lot of times the big adjustment in one of these games is you just have to identify a way to remain composed when an attack comes through, and I think that's the most difficult thing, especially when your comp doesn't have some of those easy fallback specials like a Stingray or a Missiles, where you can really step back and trust your teammates to move forward. You don't have to risk it all just for defense. That wasn't really an option in that last game, but if they counterpick right, they might have the opportunity to make that play happen.
So we'll have Clan Blitz coming up. I'll give you both one wild guess what map was decided. Shiny, any guesses?
What could it be?
Rhymes with Merge and Mipyard. Yes, we are going back to Sturgeon Shipyard for another match. And hey, this is the counterpick by Super P. They're having a lot of success here. And take me into this thought process here, Shiny. Why are you just going to the same stage? Because obviously, not every stage is the same based upon the game mode. There are some game modes that lend themselves to different strategies depending on the map, but we have seen Sturgeon Shipyard chosen each and every time by Super P.
Well, if you're Super P, you know, what works for you, I guess you just want to stay with. On the opposite side of things, for Cherry Limeade, they can take some solace in the fact that they performed a lot better and got a better handle on what Super P is going to bring to the table, which looks to be, as we go to the weapon compositions here, a lot of the same. Whereas for Cherry Limeade, they make a couple of adjustments. They go back to that Fire Fin rather than the E-Leader, and the Kenso Luna, which was, again, doing well at shutting down the backline, remains put.
We'll see if Super P can sweep all 3 games here on Sturgeon Shipyard. If not, and Cherry Limeade can steal a game, I would imagine they might go to a different map after this. But so far, let's check out Voice here from behind. Voice picking up a nice little assist. Now, Scat gathering a couple more clams here, just trying to help with the team total. It's 4-1 on the map here, 9. I mean, why not make your push at this moment?
Yeah, you have to, and I think from Cherry Limeade's side, that was almost the exact same opening that they did in that last game, all the way to Pika going down at the bottom of the bridge here. And again, the reason why they keep coming back to this map is because their long-range weapons are going to be able to zone out the members of Cherry Limeade as they try to come back out from spawn. Look at this. Yes, they had 2 down, but immediately Lily is already down. All the members are going to be jumping back in there, and it's going to be a dogfight just to get their footing.
And that's a nice opening push for Super P. They take the 47-100 lead, and at this moment, they're up 4-3 on the field. And this is interesting at this point here, Shiny, where you've made your push, the other team's got a power clam, you've got a power clam. Are you thinking more offense or more defense if you're Super P?
Well, to sort of riff on what Nine said, I think Lily might be the key in this match, and she's gone down yet again, unfortunately. That Ink Armor plays so well to your weapons like the Kenso Luna that have to be in close, and even your Foil Squeezer, who need a little bit of help to build up those bubbles, which you can see have been used here. It's playing well for defense, but it's really not giving them that much of an advantage here in terms of moving forward. The great thing for Cherry Limeade, though, is that at least for the moment, time is still on their side.
As you mentioned, time is on their side. Both teams hanging on to a power clam. That Ink Armor coming out, 4-4 on the map. So somewhat neutral at this point, other than the score for Super P, as they are hanging on to a nice advantage. Shiny dropping down from the heavens above and able to get the completion. But we'll see if Cherry Limeade can add anything else to the total. And 9, that looks like just 20 points. It's a little bit of help, but still a lot of ground to cover for Cherry Limeade.
Yeah, and they gave up a lot of map in the process of that as well, because their anchor was the one that was trying to score. You can see that Synapse is already pushed up on that right side, and here carrying the power clam, 2 members. I'm not sure that anyone's going to be able to move through. Finally, Krim is able to get the respawn, and it's going to be just enough to slow it down. But you saw all the fighting, all the time, and all the resources to only get 1 power clam in.
Yeah, Krim and Shiny might have saved a knockout right there. The 2 of them working against Super P, able to stuff that push. Now it's again Super P. They've got the clam control. They've got the power clams. Some Tena missiles coming out from Juan to apply some pressure. And this is a situation here, if you're Super P, you might as well put your foot on the gas here still, Shiny.
The old saying goes, defense wins championships, but does it win championships when you have hardly any offense? Now, the tricky part was that Super P was at 30 and Cherry Limeade was a lot lower. Now the clam counts are looking a lot closer. However, as Shiny goes down being the power clam carrier there, you have to think maybe they were a bit too optimistic about making that push. The only thing they really had going with them was the Ink Armor, and they lost a couple of their other specials too to members going down. So with just an Ink Armor potentially coming up if they can get it, this is a tough spot for them to be as we approach the 1.5-minute mark.
And you know what Voice is getting ready to do, jumping over that splash wall to go ahead and throw that power clam, able to bust open the basket, but we'll see if Super P can at least get through their penalty, and it's going to look like, again, another solid defensive push for Cherry Limeade. And you do see a couple of clams going in for Super P. We'll see if they just try to put them in, and yes, buying some precious time with another power clam. They're down at 15 here. They're now down 2 members at this point. Can they get it and get the knockout? Just 1 clam away, but that is a full wipe 9, and that'll put the brakes on that push at the moment.
I mean, just barely, and you saw that Voice had the final clam that was necessary to put that one away. Synapse, a player who we really haven't gotten to talk about much this set, did a great job of opening up that push with the attack on the right side and not letting the defense get set up, as we see the missiles once again take out Shiny, who really hasn't been able to find their footing since this game has started.
Not over yet for Cherry Limeade. However, under 50 seconds left, you are going to need a whole bag of power clams to even get back into this, and we'll see if Super P is going to try and go for the knockout. 2 power clams. There's the second one. There's the win, and there is the sweep for Super P. So the consistent pressure and locking down home field advantage, basically, on Sturgeon Shipyard. Shiny, really impressive display what we saw from Super P in all 3 of these last games.
Boy, and you look at the members of Super P there, 11, 10, 9, and 8 are their final elimination counts there. That is very evenly balanced as far as the team goes, and their composition, I think, was just so well suited for Clam Blitz. I cannot understate how important a foil squeezer can be for your composition there if you have those bubbles as an ability to push forward. It's sort of overall shielding you can give your power clam carrier. And of course, 9 talking there about Synapse, one of the most highly regarded Kensa 52 players in the West, and that's for a reason. It is such a powerful weapon, and when piloted by such a powerful player, it's even more devastating.
Let's go ahead and check out the updated bracket. We've got a pretty clean floor after a couple of sweeps here, as both Starburst and Super P are now in the finals, and you imagine this will be a highly competitive grand finals based upon just how well Starburst and Super P handled the competition. It will be best of 7, so we'll step aside here in just a second. But before we do, it's another reminder about PlayVs. PlayVs is Nintendo's official Scholastic partner for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Splatoon 2, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where thousands of high school players will compete weekly for a championship title, and players can now earn a varsity letter by gaming with their friends. You can sign up now to learn more about the fall season at www.playversus.com. Spread the word at your school and prepare to play in the fall season for 2023. Again, that's www.playversus.com. Starburst, Super P, Grand Finals. When we come back, don't go anywhere.
Oh, baby!
You were all talk when you left here, but you've nothing to show for it, D.
Oh, spare me, P.
We should have sallied forth in the first place.
Surely the turn is mine.
I believe it's my turn next.
Honestly, you make more noise than the rabble at a feast. Even if you did stop its raging flow, it will soon burst through. Well, let us see how far the flow brings them this time.
We each have a lifespan of 10 years. We call them terms. Life begins with our first term and ends at the close of our 10th.
Victory!
And over the course of those 10 years, we fight continually.
What kind of pep talk is that? Of course we're gonna survive. I've thought about this a lot. About what I can achieve. What I'll leave behind.
Then I think of tomorrow and the tremors are back. Will I see the same faces when I wake? Will I even be around to see them?
Get ready!
Now, the enemy is before you. Chase them to the ends of the world.
Unchecked, Ouroboros will lead this world to ruin. You must be erased.
These soldiers will nourish me, and we can always grow plenty more.
Stop toying with everyone's lives!
You gave us a choice. The choice not to fight. And you made it true.
That mark there. Late 10th term, eh? 3 months left. That about right?
3 more months. And then I'll be gone from this world.
How many of you are getting made an example of and hopes rest this time?
The lost numbers are attacking!
We have good reason to meet with them, to bring peace, and to set the world to rights.
But take a look around. Think about how many lives it's cost. Annihilator started moving!
This is bad, Noah.
Now I want to live and learn.
So don't give up yet. This'll buy you some extra time. Use it.
Stop this! I don't want any of your time!
If the world holds our lives back, I will end it!
These are our lives here! They're not some toys you can just play with!
It is fate. Many have tried, but none have ever managed to escape its flow.
And welcome back to the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022 Event 2 Finals, and we are getting set for the Grand Finals. Jordan Kent here alongside Nine and Shiny, and as we take a look at the bracket, two teams that had no issues whatsoever getting to finals, both of them sweeping their opponents 3-0. We've got Starburst versus Super P. And the rules will change just a little bit in Grand Finals as we take a look at the best-of-7 format between these two top inking squads. And you'll see the game modes. They are familiar as normal, and the losing team will choose the game mode. But your maps are a little different, which, fellas, it means no more Sturgeon Shipyard. I have nothing against it.
I do.
Let's go ahead and clap right there. But we saw Sturgeon Shipyard for 4 out of the 6 games in semifinals, and so we'll get to mix it up just a little bit. But, Shiny, let's start with you. Starburst, Super P, two teams that are so dominant. Where do you find the advantage against either one of these? I mean, somebody has to win, somebody has to lose, but it really doesn't seem like either team has that many weaknesses.
Well, I feel confident in saying that these are the best two teams here. They finished first and second in the first day portion of this tournament. They were the only two teams, to my knowledge, with 10+ wins to their name. So they really, early on, even in Turf War, established themselves as powerhouses. And as Nine correctly mentioned, these teams are not strangers to this stage either. So really, it's going to come down to nuances. It's going to come down to minute plays where it seems like just a 1 or 2 down situation could swing the entire pendulum in the opposite direction, because both of these teams are great at maintaining a lead and keeping a stronghold grip on their opponents.
And Nine, when you look at when you get to the cream of the crop, you've seen so many types of these matchups here where it's two teams that really feel like they should beat everybody. What does separate them? What are some of those minor things? Is it more so the flow of a game, or is it just a couple of those key moments during any given game where one team got that extra splat to get that advantage and get that extra push? Where do you see things shuffling out?
Yeah, I would say that the overall game oftentimes comes down to a decisive moment. And by that I don't mean that there's always one moment where one team clearly wins and clearly loses. But we've seen how even going down 4-2 can result in a big cascade of one person going down on left, not able to coordinate specials. And being able to recognize those moments is not something that's easy to do. And that's why these teams are able to beat the teams that they've been able to in such dominant fashion. But really, I want to see the versatility that Super P can bring to the table. Because as we have noted, laughed at, and had a good jab at, it's all been Sturgeon Shipyard. They're not going to be able to do that here. They were able to stick with the same range comp they were last time. I'd wager we're not going to see it for all 3 games this time.
And really, when you look at the plays of the anchors here, Shiny, that really seems to have stood out for both these teams through semifinals. A great anchor allows the rest of the team members to do what?
I mean, like I mentioned before, it really allows your team to do what they do best. Without a confident anchor, you don't really have the backbone of your team's strategy. If your Slayers don't have the map control, the area to get in, or the anchor calling out the locations or giving them a little chip damage with something like a Stingray, then you're in big trouble.
All right, let's go ahead and put something on the canvas here at Inkblot Art Academy. Starburst, Super P, and already taking a look at this, and this is going to be a nice little matchup of tower control here in 9. And what checkpoint do you feel like is going to have the most mayhem typically here on Inkblot?
It's the second one typically, but Jordan, we don't have Ice's Stingray here. We have Ice on the Squiffer? Excuse me? I would have lost all of my money if we'd taken this one over to a casino here, but I mean, Ice's Stingray on this map in particular can single-handedly stop pushes and win games, and Ice certainly plays a good Squiffer here, but to bring it out on a stage like this, the bravery and confidence that he must be feeling right now.
Well, we've seen Voice here, Shiny, already pick up 2 splats and an assist, trying to pave the way for Super P. So right now, when it comes to toe-to-toe, one-on-one matchup, Super P holding their own against the very strong Starburst team.
Yeah, Voice, I feel like more well-known for their Jet Squelcher, but opting to go for the armor-farming weapon here. And I want to mention, too, that's the new Squiffer. This has Auto Bomb and Baller. You want to talk about a special that has not been seen too much in recent memory. It is that Baller, but if you can use it and hold on to it while on the tower, or just hit crispy shots like that, you are going to do great things for your team.
Ice trying to mow down some more members of Super P as the tower moves to the second checkpoint here, but this is where things get dicey according to 9, and we see Bagel hop off the tower here, 9. Sometimes you have to make sure you clear the way before you try to get through that checkpoint.
Yeah, and a very, very confident play there. You saw that Ice created a little bit of space with that Baller, jumped back in, Bagel more than willing to give up on this push to try to get a secondary push and work through there. However, the members of Super P doing a great job moving in there well. Is Synapse really going to win a 1v2? Is able to. Can it be 3? And Synapse with almost a delayed wipe. The last person, though, is going to be Ice in the center as everybody was coming out of spawn. What pandemonium.
Yeah, splats and spawns left and right here on Inkblot Art Academy. And I think what we're seeing here, Shiny, is that these are 2 very equally matched teams so far. And you really like the resolve of both squads. It doesn't really seem like they're giving up much ground, able to bounce right back. This feels like it's going to come down to just one of those 2 critical moments where a team is able to turn the tide.
Well, it's not just their play styles that are identical. 3 out of the 4 weapons that they've brought to the table are the exact same. Now, the 4th weapon on each team is not exactly a meta pick, but it's really working for them. And you want to talk about doing some work here. The K-52 on both sides of the map doing some great slaying as Biscuit is able to pick up a nice party triple.
Biscuit is cooking at the moment, setting up splash walls and taking names, and an opportunity for Starburst to start chomping into that second checkpoint. Just over 2 minutes left. Starburst making their way to the 3rd checkpoint now. 4-4 on the map. 9. Here comes the Ink Armor for Super P. They're going to have to try and lock things up here pretty quickly.
Yeah, and this is a very desperate play by Voice, just trying to get one of the attackers out. All at the same time, though, the Baller finally coming in to create a little more space. It does look like they're going to be able to force the members of Starburst back, at least to prevent that checkpoint from being taken. It's going to be a long fight to get to center. They've done it very well. That's 2, a delayed 3 down. But of course it's Biscuit there to make their lives difficult on the back end. And this guy has just been a menace.
Biscuit, critical splat on the backside there, able to push forward. 4-3 advantage for Starburst. Minute 30 left. Here comes the tower. Once again, in control for Starburst. Booyah coming for Biscuit and Shiny. It's really been Biscuit's ability to infiltrate the defenses of Super P and just cause mayhem.
Yeah, it feels like the Booyah Bomb's almost been an afterthought, although it does a great job there of getting the enemies off of the overlook here. Biscuit doing some camping now, spotted out by the 10 missiles, but is going to use the splash wall as a way to negate a little bit of that damage. I also want to point out, too, the Ballers, we see Ice going down there. When it gets hit by something like a direct from that Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, it gets knocked very far back. So if you're not detonating at the exact right moment, it can really be more of a hindrance than an ability to get a cheeky little KO there.
Under a minute left here, but Starburst in full control. You see another splat. It is 3-1 Starburst. Here's the opportunity for the knockout, and they send Super P to the canvas. Taking this first game here in 9, it really just continued to feel like the relentless pressure of Biscuit and what they were able to do, even when they were in a 4-2 situation, is what allowed Starburst to get this first victory.
You hate as a commentator to put it all on one player, because this is a team game. But I would challenge you to watch that last 30 seconds of gameplay and point out where Biscuit made a mistake. Because for the life of me, I couldn't find it. Got the splats in the center to allow the team to come back. Moved up left to attack them as they were coming from the drop down. And then the second that Ice went down on the tower, rotated back, touched the tower to get it past the checkpoint, said, okay, I'm good, let me go attack the opponent. And then all the while had a Booyah Bomb in his back pocket to sustain the push. Perfect gameplay from Biscuit.
Yes, this combination here, Shiny, of not only the pressure of the 52 gal, but those splash walls that give your teammates room to operate also, right? You just can't be selfish and be the only one to duck between them. And that combination of offense, defense with a little bit of range seems to really make Biscuit that much of a menace for what Super P was trying to do.
Well, high-level Splatoon 2 players make certain things look so easy, and perhaps an underrated thing that they make look easy is the amount of dodging that they're able to do with what is perhaps a pretty clunky weapon in the K52. It's not that easy to sort of spot dodge your way around a lot of these both higher velocity, higher fire rate weapons, and also shorter range weapons, but Biscuit was able to do that and get back to an advantageous position in terms of range, which is part of what allowed them to get so many splats on the enemy team.
So we're getting set for Splat Zones in Mako Mart here, 9, and this is a fast and frenetic map and game mode as well, too. And what do you have to keep in mind if you really want to, again, secure the zone and then advance forward to keep that other team from building up their specials?
Yeah, the story's been written on this map. This might be the most popular map and mode in the entirety of Splatoon 2 at a high competitive level here, and this is one of the maps where you actually do have a few different areas you can go to build up your specials on your side of the map. Opponents tend to not push right below your drop down unless they're very confident a win can be had from there. But the follow-up after the specials is going to be the interesting spot, because you do have to fire them from a little bit further back from the zone. If the opponent is clever, they can identify that the specials mean the push is about to happen, retroactively position, and shut it down before it takes.
And Shiny, it's interesting because with so many different ways to get back to mid here on Mako Mart, when you're on defense, it feels like you're best to overwhelm the opponent in one particular spot rather than try to go 1v1 across the board with everybody trying to get back to mid.
Well, I hate to keep harping on it, but the anchor, again, is going to play such a big role in this one. Having that sort of overlook player that can call out where sort of these cheeky little sharking motions happen, especially when we have weapons like the K-Shot come out on both sides of the team, is going to be super, super important. Voice is back on that Jet Squelcher, and we are again seeing Ice on that custom variant, which means more Stingrays are coming.
We'll see if Super P can tie things up at one game apiece. Starburst looking to build upon their lead. Zone already going to Super P, and they have the numbers advantage up until we saw Bran get the splat on Juan right there, 9, and here's an opportunity with Starburst with the zone to try and tie them up.
Yeah, and it seems like that's been a couple members that have gone down to bombs. They did the perfect thing at the start. They got rid of Biscuit, but in a lot of conversations, if Biscuit is treated as the best shooter in North America, Bran is almost always number 2. So you saw came in and cleaned up there and built a little more space. They've rotated back around. Juan saying, hey, I'm not too bad on this either. And finally, Super P has pushed enough members of Starburst back that we're going to get to see what their defense is made of.
Shiny, it's plays like that. Juan getting a 1-2 on both Bagel and Biscuit. You don't see too many players get a chance to do that in any type of competitive mode.
Yeah, there are a couple of little nice competitive motions that they made there. The first one we just saw was super jumping to a close-by teammate to avoid a lot of the damage from that Stingray. The second is sort of walking slowly backwards and jumping while you're shooting with that shooter style of weapon, and it can help you stay at your maximum range and help you get kills that might be difficult if you're just standing still otherwise.
Starburst nearly tying things up. Super P still with the lead. They're trying to get the zone and gnaw into that penalty at this point. 4-3 advantage for Super P, but here comes that Stingray, and that's going to buy some precious time for Starburst here to sort of fortify their defenses, but Super P9 able to reclaim that zone.
Yeah, they've done a great job of, at the very least, not going too many down. That time you saw 2 finally did go down, and they elected to give up the zone here in exchange for maintaining a little bit of map control. But they had once again done a great job of minimizing the effects of Ice's Stingray, and then surprise, surprise, right as we start on that line of dialogue, Ice is able to take 2 people out, and that is what has allowed Starburst to move forward.
Ink Armor coming out. You see Bagel applying a lot of pressure on the zone. Lead still now in the hands of Starburst after they turn things around. Super P trying to fight back. and that is going to be a splat on Bagel. 3-2 for Super P. Here's a chance right here, Shiny.
Boy, it took 3 players just to take down Bagel, but we're seeing a lot of the same cadence that we saw in the previous games. 2 players using their specials, and then the next 2. The K-Shot seems to be in sync for Super P with the Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, but they just went down. So Juan is going to have to use this Tenta Missile almost like a special that keeps them back from the zone, but unfortunately for them, Starburst has multiple counter specials, the Stingray and the Tenta Missiles, that's going to allow them to start eating away back at their penalty.
And boy, 9, Starburst came roaring back, and how about the double splat for Ice, courtesy the burst bomb along with some sharp shooting. And that's, again, another one of those plays, 9, that is going to make a huge difference in this game.
It really is, and he makes it look so easy, too, the way that he moves forward to get those. But again, he understood exactly where he could move forward because his teammate called out where Juan went down. That meant the right side of the map was going to be free pickings. They moved forward there, and Ice, walking right in the middle, found 2 people jumping right into his lap for some easy picks.
Synapse trying to pick up the zone for Super P and at least get that penalty for Starburst, but they can't do it in time. However, they are able to save things for Super P. You see the penalty for Starburst, and now that buys some more time for Super P. But at this point here, feels like Starburst is starting to advance here, Shiny.
This plus-shaped zone actually makes it, I think, a little bit easier for some weapons to paint. If you're shooting over a box or you're shooting over the cushion in the middle of the zone, it actually allows you to paint it a lot faster than some of the more rectangularly shaped zones. You can see that they're starting to group up here. There's not that many specials at the ready for Starburst, but on the side of Super P, they have a couple. They got temporarily forced back there by the Booyah Bomb, but Synapse is about to paint and use theirs, and they have such armor that they were able to live for at least a moment, but Biscuit's K-52 was right there in front of their face. They get a full wipe to end things out, and that is yet another knockout.
Yeah, clean up on aisle Super P as Starburst able to just dominate the final minute and a half of that game. A second consecutive knockout, and now they are just 2 games away from claiming the championship. And 9, it was back and forth for a while, but it really felt like for Starburst, they were able to push forward and then use some of their own specials towards the end before Super P could, and that to me really felt like the difference.
It really is, and one of the big differences there, we keep saying his name and we keep saying the name of the special, Ice's Stingray, right? Because the thing about missiles is, as strong as they are and as quickly as you can build them up, there's no direct pick that can fall from that, right? You're not always going to get a splat. When Ice fires that Stingray and picks one person out, more often than not, that's going to be enough. And that really was the difference where they could reliably create 4v3 with their backliner. On the other end, Super P ran double missiles, which is strong, but didn't always lead to the guaranteed picks that they needed.
Let's go ahead and check out the rules once again and see what other stages are available to roll with here. We've gone through Tower Control, we've gone through Splat Zones, and we've seen Inkblot Art Academy as well as Mako Mart. So we'll see what game mode Super P decides to go with here, and then of course the map that Starburst will choose. And for Super P, we're seeing enough in the first half of these games here, Shiny, to go toe-to-toe with Starburst, but when you're trying to beat these great teams, you've got to play for the entire time. You can't really have any mistakes or mishaps, and it just feels like Starburst is taking that one opportunity each and every single game and running away with it.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Sometimes the scoreboard does not always tell the whole story, and it sounds like we're going to be going to Rainmaker Humpback Pump Track, which if you look at that map, you go from what is sort of a rectangular / square map to a very circular map. You have a circular zone in the middle. You again have sort of a moat style around that raised portion of the map, and you also have a nice overlook for what I assume to be both jet squelchers that will be coming back into this next game. So we'll see if they can make good use, and again, sort of act as the lookout for their team.
And first time we've seen Rainmaker so far in this event 2 finals today, 9. And with the Rainmaker, how do you coordinate your pushes? Because you know this is one of those game modes where if you blink, sometimes it could be over, or it just ends up being this incredibly long stalemate.
Yeah, you find who is going to be the people who are running ahead of the Rainmaker, and you wait for them to be in position. You wait until Biscuit or Bran calls out, hey, I'm up in my position, I've attacked, there's one down, let's go here. And if you're Super P, I think you wait until you get Ice down to really make that dedicated push, because you know, presumably, a Stingray is going to be there to shut down your push before it can even get started.
Rainmaker Humpback Pump Track. Hang on to your handlebars here. We'll see if Starburst can build a 3-0 lead in this best of 7, or can Super P finally bounce back and pick up a game here. We'll see both teams scurrying towards the middle, and Shiny will let you go through the loadouts and point out anything noteworthy.
Man, noteworthy. The biggest thing that I noticed is that Biscuit, who of course we talked about doing very, very well on the K-52, has gone to what I would consider their signature weapon, which is the Nautilus 79. This is kitted out with, of course, the Suction Bomb, which is a super powerful bomb with a slower detonation, and then, of course, the Inkjet. You want to talk about a map where you can build quickly an Inkjet and make heavy use of it like Biscuit is here? This is the map for it.
Oh, but the Inkjet comes back down to earth. Super P 4-1 advantage, and here's an opportunity, 9, after we saw Starburst race out to a 41-0 lead.
Yeah, and actually I'm a little surprised that Ice was opting to stay and fight in that scenario here. Thought for certain it would be a jump back here. The lead is going to go, and maybe a little bit more. Just discombobulated right now is Starburst here. This is not what you'd expect from a defense on their end. It does look like they've managed to somewhat adroitly thrust that push aside and play a little defense there, but that was scary for an opening push.
Super P claiming the lead, so with plenty of time left, Super P has a chance to play a little defensively here. They don't have to force the issue. Of course, here is Biscuit, as we mentioned, with that Nautilus can really apply a lot of pressure, and you've got 3 specials ready to go here for Starburst. Feels like this is a good time here, Shiny, to let them fly.
Boy, this is a common combination here, the Ink Armor and the Inkjet. The Inkjet has gone through a lot of different nerfs and buffs over the life cycle of Splatoon 2, and where it sits now, when it has that Ink Armor with the weapon activated, it can really be so much more devastating and have a greater chance to stay alive. We also see something I was expecting to happen, the Stingray coming out at the same time as the Rainmaker being pushed. So Ice will stay back, try and find a straight line of sight, and then try to pick off or at least find any defending members of Super P.
Super P down 2 members. Here's a chance for Starburst to push forward and take the lead. They're being patient though here, 9. That's what you see. They're not just racing ahead. Bagel trying to find an opening with Super P doing just enough, but no! Starburst able to push it and take the lead back from Super P.
I know they lost the lead there, but I cannot stress to you how impressive that defense was from Super P. Missiles, armor, and a Stingray coming at you there, as well as Biscuit's delayed Inkjet, and all you give up is just a few more points and not the knockout. I think they can even be happy with how that ended up going.
So it's still a disadvantage state for Super P. They trail by 4, but here is the Rainmaker back at neutral. They've got a special ready to go. Voice is right now holding the Golden Fish, moving their way forward here. See Juan underneath trying to throw a couple of suction bombs. Juan with those Tenta missiles about halfway ready, and Shiny at this point, you're trying to work your way up. You've taken out a member of Starburst. You got to make this push count.
And we talked about patience with the push with Starburst there. Super P might just not have had enough patience there. They do have a great amount of map controller had, where Starburst now has regained it back. But the nice thing about the Neo Splash-O-Matic and the Suction Bomb Rush is that it can be both an offensive and a defensive special. You can be right in the middle of the action and pop those Suction Bombs right at your feet and not only gain map control, but have a great chance to take out one of your foes as well.
Here is Biscuit trying to mow a pathway for their teammates, and just so adept at just not only regaining map control, but it's that pressure that they apply to 9, and here it is, we're getting a front row seat for it.
Yep, even more points, and I don't mean to aggrandize that Stingray any more than I already have here, but you could not pick a better map in terms of sitting exactly where you want to and having a straight line to where the opponent has to go to defend it here. They're going to get a few more points off of that as well. They do have 2 members in the middle, but look who's waiting for them. Biscuit once again making sure they don't give up too much space.
Biscuit, Inkjet ready to go. Applying a little bit of backline help for Starburst at this moment. Over a minute left, 10-point lead for Starburst. They're in well positioned to play a little bit of defense here. Biscuit moving forward with that Inkjet, trying to hunt down a few members of Super P. You see them retreat with the super jump. And now at this point, Shiny, if you're Super P, you got a special ready to go, but you're down 4-3 on the map.
Here's what's going for them. Starburst used every single special that they had at their disposal, and now it's Super P's turn. They were able to use the Tenta missiles, and now they've just gotten the use of the Suction Bomb Rush. Juan now having to rely on the main weapon, but just can't find the range against Ice, who will finally fall, making it a 3v3 situation. The one thing they still have at their disposal just went down. That was their last Tenta missile. So the main thing they're going to have in the last 30 seconds is the armor if the Rapid Blaster Pro Deco can build it up.
And 9, I know you saw it. Biscuit up top, just raining down ink, picking up a critical double splat to all of a sudden put Super P up against the wall, and that is what Biscuit has been doing on this map, just laying down opponents and making sure that Starburst has always had the advantage.
All the skill that he has, and he still has the mindfulness to not go too far when he knows that they have the lead here. It's going to be missiles going around, but if they don't touch the Rainmaker, that's going to be it, and all the missiles in the world won't be enough to get them that game, as a great opening counter push there by Super P to give themselves a chance to win that game, but Starburst too consistent, the game plan just unshakable.
Bagel and Starburst tucking in Super P. All that's left is one more game to read him a good night story. And for this point here, Shiny, we just continue to see those plays. And this was the conversation before finals started. Both these teams, they get to finals going 3-0. Was it going to be really what happens throughout the entire game or some of those key moments? And it feels like what we're seeing now, there's just a couple of moments here and there where it's a double splat or a triple splat or a 2-for-1 that is really going the favor of Starburst more so than Super P.
Man, some might say it takes nerves of steel to switch off of a weapon that's doing so well for you, like Biscuit did there, switching from the K52 over to the Nautilus 79. But look how well it played for them. Super P stuck to their guns, which of course is admirable. And antenna missiles can be very, very strong on this map, of course, both for the damage and for knowing where your enemies are. But with Starburst having that extra offensive capability with the armor in tow as well, it really makes you distracted if you're Super P to also have to be looking up into the air as often as you're looking straight ahead. So while Starburst had to worry about the little circles coming right at their feet, on the opposite side of things, Super P was staring away from the Rainmaker, and that allowed Starburst to really take some strong pushes forward.
So we know our next game mode will be Clan Blitz here, 9. We just don't know what map, but at this point, if you're Super P, I mean, you're showing signs of being able to go toe-to-toe here with Starburst, but what do you do differently if you're Super P? Because we're going to have Clan Blitz at the Reef. Is there anything they can do to change things up? Or at this point, is it just really a display of how dominant Starburst can be when they're playing at this level?
They've shown flashes, right? And I think at this point, there hasn't been any major comp change that came out from the members of Super P. Typically, if you go down 0-3, it means you don't have another real comp that you can bring out here. So I think from their perspective, they do see the moments where they've been able to take leads, where they've been able to go toe-to-toe. It's just the game plan that Starburst sticks to, following up Ice's Stingray with some missiles, or following up one of Biscuit's Inkjets with some armor to extend the life of that Inkjet. It's so consistent, and they're able to make it work over and over. Now, what I will say, for those of you who are thinking, is this deja vu? It is not. These two teams did play Clan Blitz a few months ago in the NA Open back in March, and Super P really gave it to Starburst in that, so maybe they thought it was a fluke. They didn't want to go back to it too early, but let's see if they can do it again. Yeah,
it'll be fascinating to see what they decide to go with and what Biscuit decides to roll with here. And Shiny, when you see the success that Biscuit and Ice are having, if you're going against them, do you try to make a concerted effort? Hey, we got to just make sure we're having at least 2 players on Biscuit at all times, because we're not going to take care of anything in a 1v1.
Boy, if I were worried, I think it would be more so if Rainmaker were the mode, but Clan Blitz is not really a mode that goes to 100-0 quickly that often, so there will be opportunities in multiple team fights for them to find success. And as we see here, Ice swapping over to a Bamboozler variant, that's going to give them a little bit closer range in terms of how they need to play, but this is a map that can lend itself really well to that type of playstyle. The look over on the bridge can be super useful for that.
So here it is, 3-0 Starburst. They're trying to get the sweep here and win the championship here in the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022 event number 2. And right now they're well on their way. But it's the 3-1 advantage on the map for Super P, and this is the kind of start they're looking for here, 9.
Yeah, and you know, I really shouldn't have said anything. Commentators curse here. I said they didn't have another comp to bring out. How about this? They are now going a 3-shooter comp alongside of Leo on that Rapid Blaster Pro Deco. This is a much faster comp, and it's going to be much better at forcing the scramble situations that they've been getting outplayed in. You can see Juan at the top of the screen attacking. Leo sitting in the middle, scoring more. Voice is going to be able to come back in if they so choose. And how about that? A complete role reversal, and they're still scoring.
And how about this initial push by Super P here, Shiny? I mean, this is just a huge confidence boost. You got to imagine, you come out the gate, you start this game just like this in under a minute, you build a huge lead, 32-100.
It takes ballers of steel to play a baller in this meta, and especially, too, not just the special, but the sub of the point sensor. That is not a very oft-seen special that is useful for marking your opponents, but that's about it. The nice thing about it, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, is that it lingers for a little bit. So if any members of Starburst, aside from those who are caught, happen to walk through it, it's going to mark them for their teammates. And as we saw at the beginning there, the 52 is such a strong shooter with its 2-shot capability.
Arguably the largest deficit Starburst has faced today. We'll see if they can come back down 100-32. Here's Bagel. Bagel able to get the completion with the basket. It's now 4-2 on the map, and just like that, 9, they steal the lead away from Super P.
I blinked and they had 30 clams. What in the world there to build 2 power clams that quickly as they are outplaying the members of Super P in neutral? It just again shows how versatile and strong this team is. And you can see here again the patience. Bagel scores 1, rotates back immediately, still has another threat. Now Brand is moving up to attack. Ice is going to roll on up and extend it once again. They have enough clams to win it. Will they be able to do it? They do. Biscuit fittingly with the very final clam to put this one to bed. The brooms are out. Starburst with a clean 4-0 against Super P.
If there were any doubt, Shiny, about the capabilities of Starburst, they were looking at the largest deficit they faced in this tournament today. And what do? They march right down the middle of the reef and go 100-0 with that push. And it goes to show you just how dominant this team can be when they play at this level. But really, it's the poise of this roster and how no matter what type of adversity they face, they have the confidence to stare it right in the eye and move forward.
You know, as much as we may talk about 1 or 2 members of the team, it really is a team effort. We saw on the leaderboard there at the end of the match that Bran was at the top with a 5KA there on that Neo Splash-O-Matic. So all of their members feeling very confident, and that's important when you go down as big a deficit as we saw there in that Clam Blitz mode going all the way down to 30. So it just shows that one super strong but meditated push can really help you to turn the tide as long as you're patient enough and as long as you play your weapon to the best of your ability.
Let's go ahead and check out the bracket one final time as Starburst, now officially Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Invitational speedrunners at this point, because they go 3-0, 4-0 all the way to the championship here. Congratulations to Starburst and Super P doing an excellent job as well too. They handled Cherry Limeade 3-0, but when you come up against a team like Super P, you've got to be very impressed with what they can do. Well, before we sign off, we do want to tell you one more thing about Play Versus. Play Versus is Nintendo's official Scholastic partner for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Splatoon 2, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where thousands of high school players will compete weekly for a championship title, and players can now earn a varsity letter by gaming with their friends. You can sign up now to learn more about the fall season at www.playversus.com. Spread the word at your school and prepare to play in the fall season for 2023. Again, that's www.playversus.com. One final word from both of you on what we saw today with all these teams here. 9, we'll start with you. What's your takeaway here from this event 2?
You know, in our notes, Jordan, we have Starburst listed down as the big bad wolf, and that is the terminology that we used. We know that whatever roster they bring, because they've got a couple, they're going to bring the very best of what this game has to offer at a high level. And frankly, through all the years that they've been here, only one team has been able to crack the code on how to beat them. That team, not currently here, so they executed as much as we would expect them to. And I can't wait to see, if they do elect to come to the next couple of tournaments here, what they're going to be able to bring.
And Shiny, we see it. You see some fresh faces, but sometimes it's been those Inklings and Octolings that have been here the longest that show you the way, and that's what we saw with Starburst this afternoon.
Well, and that's one of the things I like about the Western scene is that the team culture is so well cultivated and is very important here. So staying on a team and really working to improve your skills and scrimmaging with other teams is a big factor in the Western meta. So even when you take a team like Starburst and make them better, incorporating a couple members from another very strong team, not for the win, it really shows that when these folks play together, it makes them even stronger than they already are individually.
Well, congratulations to Starburst, our champions of the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022 Event 2. We'll get set for Event 3 here in a couple of weeks, but for myself, 9, Shiny, thank you so much again for joining us, and don't forget to continue to stay tuned into Nintendo Versus for all of your competitive Nintendo action. From all of us here, thank you, and we'll catch you next time.
Whether it's to play your favorite game, to play for school pride, or for the thrill of competition, play competitively with Play Versus. Visit playvs.com today for more information.
Welcome, all you kids and squids, to our recap of the Splatoon 2 Fresh 4 Championship 2021. My name is Ninehole Grains, I'm a Splatoon commentator and a huge fan of the game, and I cannot be more excited to bring the action to you here today.
Hi everybody, my name is Milana, and I'm an enthusiastic squid kid just like you. Today we're joined by two teams, Not FT Win and Starburst, two of the best teams in North America duking it out for a trophy featuring Judd and Lil Judd. Without further ado, let's take it to game number 1.
Game 1 was a story of decisive movement and trusting your game plan, and boy did these teams get it started early.
That's right, Nine. We can see here Kyo getting an early splatted by Bran and Ice, and both members of Starburst moving to that advantageous positioning and, you know, really just holding down that zone where they need to be.
It's not easy to take back against this team, and take a look at how Not FT Win did it. Look at all those bombs flying from left to right, booyah bombs, suction bombs, splat bombs. Woo! Had to back all the way back and give up the zone there.
Yeah, and we can catch that slow-mo replay in case you missed a little bit of that action. As we can see here, some of those suction bombs running in and trying to catch that zone from Not FT Win. And what is important here to notice is that two members of FT Win trying to combine their specials to hold that zone, and because, you know, there's power in numbers, Nine.
There absolutely is power in numbers. I see what you did there, and this is actually a strategy that they used multiple times throughout this game. We actually have it from the perspective of Bagel this time, who is lined all the way back, tossing the suction bombs from as far away as possible, understanding that they need to stay on the map if they want to take the zone. Out the corner of your eye, you'll also see that Kyo had jumped down with another bomb rush as well. It was just enough to take the zone back as they were on the verge of defeat. With just over 10 seconds left, they bought themselves some more time.
And like we said, positioning, positioning, positioning. Biscuit here is taking kind of a dangerous position and unfortunately gets picked off by Ice, but Ice here using that pick to make space and take a more advantage spacing so that they can protect the zone.
The two teams traded punches back and forth through the rest of it until this final decisive hold here from FT Win. Bagel once again gets it started out with that suction bomb rush, but take a look here, holding down this area by this fan to ensure that his teammates could move up. You're gonna see here just in a moment, Kyo backs up here next to Bagel and uses another bomb rush in order to force the members of Starburst all the way back. Once they got this portion of the map, Milana, they never let it go.
That's right, Nine, and you know, we see that timer ticking down, and this was the decisive play that gave them the victory.
A fantastic game number 1, and let me tell you, when we saw that game number 1 looked like this, we knew we're in for one heck of a set. And speaking of that set, let's go ahead and throw it right into the middle with game number 4.
As we enter game 4 of the Fresh 4 Championship, Not FT Win only has one more game to claim the victory. Starburst is going to have to make some big changes, so they opt to change their weapon composition to something a little longer ranged.
What Starburst gained in a bit of range, they gave up in mobility. About halfway through the game, Not FT Win took advantage of a slight overextension and used that speed to swarm the members of Starburst as they went on to score big. From there, it was a hop, skip, and a jump to get a huge lead that they would hold until the game's waning seconds.
And with 30 seconds left on the clock, Starburst is going to have to make some big moves to get some points on the board. Brandroid taking that left route over there and getting a pick off of Not FT Win is going to be huge. It's going to give them a little bit of area to move forward, and it's going to make Not FT Win retreat.
They took advantage of that almost immediately. You can see Bran and Jared at the top of the screen attacking Not FT Win's flank. In the meantime, Ice and Brandroid wait patiently for that attack to land, and once Bran rotates back, Ice moves in with a huge score that starts the bonanza. The rest of the members swarm as quickly as they can, and an emphatic victory going the direction of Starburst.
And with the end of game 4, Starburst is finally on the board, and the momentum starts to shift in their favor. That will bring us to an exciting game 7. Let's take a look here.
We had finally arrived at game 7, the championship point. The two rivals had treated us to another incredible set in their storied history. But it was finally time to determine a winner and for heroes to be made.
Our first big play was made by Ice. Ice from Starburst surviving an unlikely 2v1 right here, And this gives Starburst the ability to push up a little bit. And Ice, taking that aggressive positioning, is able to charge their special, the Stingray. By using the Stingray, they are able to kind of produce a little bit of covering fire and take out hopefully a member or two of Not FT Win, helping that Rainmaker make its first push.
Not to be outdone by his teammate, Bran went on an absolute tear this game, hitting an incredible double direct with this Inkjet and getting a second pick on Kyo from Not FT Win. This push looked like it might take the points the distance as the team moved closer and closer to getting that knockout.
What Starburst wasn't anticipating was Biscuit waiting for them as they were making that push. Biscuit able to hold that defensive positioning and take a couple of members of Starburst down allows for an opening for Not FT Win to make a push.
In their final desperate push, FT Win placed all their cards in the correct position. Kyo and Bagel moved up, taking out 3 members, with the last one being Brandroid. In an incredible, unlikely fight, Brandroid was able to take out all 3 members of Not FT Win, securing the victory for his team.
But that was a lot of action in one go, so let's take another look at the action in slow-mo. As we can see here, 2D is holding a defensive positioning, trying to defend against Bran, getting a lot of support from their teammates, and in this one last final opportunity to make the push, unfortunately Brandroid is able to stop all 3 members of Not FT Win in one go, giving the victory to Starburst.
At the end of this historic set, Starburst completed an incredible reverse sweep to earn their very first North American Championship.
And 9, I for one cannot wait to see Not FT Win and Starburst duke it out on the battlefield once again.
We've hoped you'd enjoyed this recap of the Splatoon 2 Fresh 4 Championship 2021. Until next time, stay fresh!